Hello, Bernhard.
Hi, Carsten.
What do we do in this session?
Yes, so in this one, we do an Azure Virtual Desktop installation in depth. That means we talk about the details of creating a host pool, where the artifacts go, what you should enter, what it is meaning for, and where the differences are between an AVD on-premise versus an AVD on HCI installation, right? So this is part of redundant content for the people that are already familiar with AVD in general. But some of the things are new. And for the people that are new to Azure Virtual Desktop in general, especially on HCI, this is the session to watch. Okay, but there are a lot of things to talk about. So this is a be prepared for a lengthy session. But instead of looking at slides, I would say let's do it. And let's switch to your system and have you configuring the settings in your Azure portal.
Yeah, we do a two-part thing. You talk and I configure, right? So let's switch to the screen here. Here we see the second cluster. The first we did the quick deployment, and we prepared in the last video some things here. And I reinstalled the cluster, but the things are again prepared. So we have 60 days left of our
Oh,
free
okay.
billings. So what we did last time, to recap, we installed two logical networks.
Mhm,
We downloaded an image.
mhm,
Yeah, this is a Windows 11 multi-session image,
mhm.
and yeah, and we have place in the cluster for the data
Great.
with the Azure Stack HCI deployment. I did a standard deployment, so Azure Stack HCI um, created our cluster shared volumes, and these are the two storage paths. So we are
Mhm,
ready to deploy our first 10, I think 10-ish AVD
mhm.
hosts here, and
Yep.
with a slow installation. Last time we did a quick one. So this
Meaning we
tile
are,
is now green here, right?
yes. So you can press the blue button and
I will
launch up.
press. I take the blue pill now. Okay, I press the blue button.
Okay.
So
Yes, and this is, starts up with the regular Azure Virtual Desktop host pool creation wizard, right?
mhm,
You may, if you are familiar with Azure Virtual Desktop, this first page is familiar to you, right?
mhm,
But let's briefly talk a little bit about the details. So first of all, a host pool needs to have a name, right? And I think we did some naming convention. So
yeah.
please
So I will
copy and
copy it
paste.
in here. Yeah.
Right, so we tell it host pool. We say where it is on the second cluster and its purpose, right?
Yeah.
It's for hosting desktops. That's it. The location should go to West Europe. That's,
Mhm.
a sort of a limited list of all the locations that are available for Azure, right? Because not every location is serving Azure Virtual Desktop artifacts. So that doesn't mean that your virtual machine needs to go to West Europe, meaning Amsterdam. No, this is just the artifacts that come for configuring Azure Virtual Desktop in general. They will be, you know, located in West Europe. Okay.
Yes.
So that's the metadata that's stored with it. Um, okay, then we do have a validation environment. No, yes. Validation environments sometimes, enable you or light you up for preview features. So some of the things are only available when you hit yes. But in our case, AVD is published, it's released, so we can say no, it's not validation environment. It should go live. Okay.
Mhm.
Preferred app group role type is desktop. What else do you have here? Well,
Yeah.
remote app. So you could choose for either or, right? I mean, that means it's either desktop or a remote app.
Mhm.
You can't mix it. You shouldn't mix it. It was technically possible to do so, but we limited that now to tell you exactly, what kind of usage this is for. So our users should have access to the full desktop rather than only just applications or single applications. Okay, that's good. Host pool type. what do you have there? If you go for the drop-down box, personal, that means a dedicated desktop. So me, Bernhard Frank, would always get the same desktop. That's the scenario for high privileged admins that need to play with their desktops. Maybe you want to give me permissions to install stuff on my own because I'm a developer. I need some resources, and nobody else needs that. Then personal would be the choice. However, for business workers, or maybe the road warriors, as as they are sometimes referred to, right? They need a pooled resource with the same set of applications installed, right? And you don't care about individual stuff so much. It's about the applications and the defined environment. So you have a shared bunch of desktops, and with that, maybe in our case, we are trying to serve the scenario where we did the calculation for the 160 users. But we are only having 10 desktops, I assume, right, for them. So we need to come up with some sort of a load balancing algorithm. And breadth first means we are, like a round robin mechanism, where we say, hey, first user goes to first desktop that is on, second user goes to second desktop, and so forth, right? So that's, from a performance perspective, maybe the best thing for the users. Whereas depth first would mean like a filling up, right? So you fill up the first host with the maximum number of users that are allowed per session host.
Let's say 16.
Right. And once that happens, you go to the next one, right?
This will save money, maybe, or will it also start the next desktop if it fills up the desktops, or do we have to have them already running?
Not in here, to be honest, or not with that setting. So these are settings that can be done later on, and we'll talk about that. Okay. But
so we go for breadth first.
Okay. Yep.
Or do we? Yeah, we do breadth first.
Okay.
And we said 16 users is the maximum limit of users who can share one pooled Windows server. No, not Windows Server. Windows Desktop 11 multi-session host. Yeah.
Right. So it's a multi-session OS that we put place on. That means up to 16 users can connect concurrently. Okay. So now let's go to virtual machines and add them.
Yes, we want to deploy virtual machines.
Correct.
Okay, name prefix. We have already something here, and the visit.
So that's, as we are creating 10 virtual machines, we need to provide some name to, as a prefix, and then later the numbers will be put on, like -1, -2, -3, and whatnot, right? So that's how that goes.
Yeah.
And as you could see here,
a little remark, yeah, because when I work with other people and show this, we can only enter 11 characters here, and
good catch.
Yeah, that's not for a good naming convention. 11 characters is very short. So I was thinking, why are they choosing such a short, or only allowing such a short number of characters? And then you explained me, and I didn't realize that this is also the name of the hosts. So the virtual machines, they will be domain joined, and this is the NetBIOS name of the machine, or the name of the machine, and we are only allowed to have, I think, 15 characters, or 14 characters. So 11 characters plus the dash, plus, I think, 2 signs or so. Is it 2 or 3? Then we fill up all the characters we can use to in a machine, in a Windows machine.
Yeah. As said, this name is being used multiple times, but the limitation, I think, comes from the NetBIOS name of the computer itself. Okay. Good. Virtual machine type. That's an interesting one because that's new, or that came with Azure Stack HCI, because it was previously not there, right? As all of the virtual machines have been Azure virtual machines, it doesn't make any sense to have an option there. But now with Azure Stack HCI, you can choose between, do you want these virtual machines to be put in Azure or on-premise on your HCI system? And that, influences the way how that wizard will look like. But first of all, we talk about the virtual machine location here, which is not the location of the, well, for Azure virtual machines, it would be the virtual machine object. So the Azure data center, basically, right? If we select Azure Stack HCI, this window will vanish. It will go away. However, that field will be still evaluated. But my virtual machine is hosted on HCI, right? But this is like
So
a
in
digital,
Hallenberg.
right? But this is like a digital twin, right? For Azure Stack HCI, and you're selecting where to put that digital twin to. And I would assume that this is some sort of a glitch a little bit in the wizard, because that field should go to, as well as to the, if you select the option Azure Stack HCI virtual machine.
Here should be the field too, you mean?
Yes, but I think that may have been fixed already at the time when you watched the video, right? But I want this digital twin artifact to be placed in a region near me, or where all the other resources are as well. And
For
that's why we
example,
choose.
you have the arc resource. So our virtual machine has a representation as an arc resource, and this arc resource would be placed in East US, but we don't want that. So I'm completely with you. Here we should also have the option to choose the location. Maybe people will think, no, I'm deploying on my Azure Stack HCI in my data center, not in West Europe. Right, you aren't, but some resources will be there, and where should they be placed?
Yeah, and
okay, what's the next
what
one?
you just said. I mean, I want to deploy on my cluster, and this is the drop-down box for the custom location, right? So this is your cluster. Then, where do you want to deploy that system or that virtual machines or that desktops to, right? And there comes in the custom location. And with the custom location is the description of the cluster itself, right? What images are available on that cluster, which storage paths are available, which networks are available, right? These are all attached to a custom location. So take a custom location as a description of your cluster when it comes to virtual machine creation. Okay, sounds good.
Over with the custom location, he also knows which Azure resource bridge or Arc resource bridge he has to address with the work. So it will generate an ARM template, of course, and the ARM template, I guess, is partially executed in Azure, but also some of it maybe on the cluster, and the Arc resource bridge is also specified with this one. But this is important. What I first didn't realize, we have a custom location and Arc resource bridge per cluster. So if we have multiple clusters, we have multiple custom locations. I first did the error. I said, okay, they are all in Hallenberg, so I can call the custom location Hallenberg data center. Yeah, that works for the first cluster. But if you deploy another one, you can't choose Hallenberg data center again. It's not like West Europe. It's like the location of the cluster. So it's addressing the cluster itself.
Right. So a custom location is tied to a cluster. You cannot have multiple hardware or multiple hardware clusters inside of one custom location, right? That's not working, or that's not the principle of how it works. As you said, it's always for every cluster needs to have a custom location. Okay. Security type?
Security type, we only have standard in the moment. There are also something with trusted, but not in Windows desktop so far, I guess. So we have only this security type, but it could be more secure. Number of VMs, I think we have the 10, and the browser offers me previous entered numbers, so it knows we have done something here with 10. We want to deploy 10 VMs. Then we can specify how many processor counts, so how many virtual processors each VM has, and this is different to Azure, right? In Azure we have our VM sizes, so we can't play with the cores and the memory individually. We have to choose a size, and with the size we have a definite number of cores and memory and disk and IOs, I guess, right?
Yes. Full stop. I don't have anything to add here. I mean, it's a
Yeah,
different
okay.
way of sizing the virtual machines. You
Yeah,
have
it's
much
much
more
more
freedom.
flexibility, yeah, or
Yep.
freedom, yeah. So we can also specify if our VMs, this is a Hyper-V feature, if our VMs have static memory, means when a VM starts, the 16 gigabytes are taken from the memory, they are allocated, even if the VM only uses 1 or 2 gigabytes, the 16 gigabytes are gone. And if you are tight with your memory, you can choose dynamic. Then the hypervisor can also give a virtual machine more memory, or uh, get the memory that is not used in a virtual machine, pull it back or get it back and give it to other virtual machines. In our case, we don't play with static and dynamic. You have to test that. Your application has to work with that. A Windows operating system can always have dynamic memory, except it's a non-supported operating system from 2 decades ago, maybe I would say that. Yeah, then you can't use that. But
Mhm.
it's your choice. We go with static, and yeah. So network,
Mhm.
we take our
Do
network
you
or
have a
logical network.
DHCP server on that one?
Yes,
Right?
I hope
Then
so. Yes.
okay. Yeah, that you need to make sure that the DHCP server tells the desktop adapters where the domain controller is, because in the bottom window you see already that we are going to do a domain join.
Yeah.
Hence, the DHCP needs to issue, the right default gateway, the DNS settings, and the valid IP address, right?
Yeah.
Whereas
So
the other
Bernhard,
thing, the static setting, you would need
yeah,
to specify that before.
yeah, Bernhard. So usually an on-prem administrator
Mm,
has for his resources static IP addresses. I don't know many who use DHCP on-prem for. Here we have like session hosts.
mm,
In Azure, DHCP is the way to go, I would say. You can also get some static addresses, but you don't need to. And here also, we don't need static addresses because how the client will connect to the virtual machine, he is not connecting directly to an IP address. So we
mm.
don't have to know that. We don't use a VPN and so on. I would say so far here in this at this state of the video, it's magic. We will talk about the magic later, but so far it's magic. Or what would you say?
I don't want to, spend too much time on it. I mean, DHCP is, take it as it is from the functionality. You need to provide the DHCP with the right settings, right?
Yeah,
Whereas static is different. But we can maybe talk about that in a later video.
yeah, we will.
Um,
Yeah.
it is sort of, different from the way of it is in Azure, right? Because in Azure you define a virtual network.
Mm,
A virtual network does not exist on premise on HCI. It
yet.
is, in this case, it is called a logical network, which at some point in time needs to connect to the physical world, definitely, right? Because
Mhm.
you have switches, you have routers, and it needs to fit to your network. Therefore, it is a little bit different. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, we will talk about that a little bit later. Yeah, now we have to specify an Active Directory user who has the
Mhm,
right to join the new generated virtual machines to the domain. Yeah,
mhm.
and in the last video I used the admin one at powercourse.local, and now I have to provide the password, and it has to be the correct one.
Yeah, I mean, as a good practice, but you all know that. I mean, it's must not be an administrator account for domain join, right? There are ways of enabling a domain join user with the right to add multiple machines to a domain. I think
Yeah,
that would be the better approach.
yeah.
But it's a demo environment, right? So we don't
Yeah,
want to.
it only the name is only admin one. It doesn't have a domain admin
Perfect.
rights. No, I'm lying. That's it is. It's just yeah. But normally I have another user, but here we choose this one. So
Yeah. Okay.
Then we have to specify, this time it is a local administrator account,
Mhm.
because when the machine is generated, the wizard has to do things on the local machine before it domain joins. So this is for the domain join, but this is a local administrator. And we can't use administrator. It's a
Mm.
forbidden
Yep.
user in Azure. So if I type administrator here, the wizard would say, no, you can't use that. It's a reserved word. So I tend to use a local admin. Yeah,
Mm.
and for that, we have to specify a password that will be set for this user.
Yeah. And you
And
could see from the complexity, right? It does a regular expression check that validates the complexity of that password, just like any other virtual machine that you would put on Azure. Same principle here. Also similar, like if you create an AVD session host in Azure,
mhm.
it would also give you the possibility or ask for a local admin account
Yeah,
when it
we
comes to
need that.
troubleshooting purposes,
Yeah.
for example. Okay.
So this
No,
account is generated in the machine.
mhm.
This is an account we have to have in the Active Directory because we use that for the domain join. But you wanted to say something.
Yeah. Do you want to specify an organizational unit?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay.
Thank you for that. Very important. I want to specify an organizational unit, so I have to add the. Oh, it was already offered here. Okay, otherwise I copy it, or we can
Mhm.
choose it. So we will talk about that later when
Mhm.
we go more in depth.
Mhm.
We have a special organizational unit for our AVD hosts, and then we can, of course, set group policies on it, and that will be very handy, for example, for our profile path with FX logic and so on. So
Yep.
we will deploy them in a special OU. So
Mhm.
next we go to workspace.
Okay.
And we have the possibility to create a workspace. What is a workspace, Bernhard? I
Workspace.
always mess it
Yeah,
up.
I think we'll do that in maybe. Do you want to do it now? Oh yeah, let's do a workspace. A workspace is an aggregation or a view. Um, it's an aggregation of application groups. So the next
Hmm.
question would be, what is an application group? An application group defines which user can do what in that host pool, right? So is Bernhard Frank allowed to have access to the desktop of this host pool? That would be
Hmm.
an application group. But be a user in an application group is not enough. I need to visualize that to the user, right? So Bernhard Frank may have access, or you want to create a workspace, for example, that is hosted on site B or on site A or on the cloud or in Azure Stack HCI or in Azure, which contains different resources, different desktops. And that's, think of this like a list or like an RSS feed of all the application groups that you are able to see, right?
Hmm.
Um, and this is a workspace basically, right? So it's an aggregation of application groups. And when we come to the clients in the next session, we look at these workspaces, right? When I log on, um, the workspaces will be downloaded for me as the user, and I will be seeing that. Okay.
Hmm. It makes sense if we see what really is happening with that, right?
Yeah. Okay. So let's
Okay,
go
that's a
to.
wrong one. Go here. Okay, I entered the name here that we used
Mhm.
with our quick installation, and I just changed the cluster name here. So we have a
Mhm.
workspace, custom location, and then we
Site B.
decided to name this Site B
Right.
because we said we have two node clusters with
Mhm.
AVD on it, Azure Virtual
Mhm.
Desktop, and one is sitting in one room on
Mhm.
one side and the other is sitting in another side. Because in Germany we like to put our resources in different rooms.
Mhm.
So I go to OK here. It will create this one, and next it is advanced. So in
Mhm.
advanced, yeah, we could enable some diagnostic settings.
Yeah, so don't do it at this stage. We can always do that later on, right? So the diagnostic settings is good for troubleshooting.
Okay.
for gathering data, even for gathering other insights of that host pool, session hosts, like performance data that can be evaluated for evaluating if the system is in good shape or for troubleshooting purposes. Okay, but we'll do that probably later in another video, right? When we come to monitoring itself. Okay, tags can be used for things like if you wanna make sure or know where the who should be paying for that host pool, right? Because you can get the tags that are tied to some resources or for the resources in Azure. You can take them down for billing purposes, right? So you see the usage, and there you can then calculate the costs, and then ask the people in cost center XYZ for taking the bill. That could be an option, or it's an indication for you who did that, who was the creator of that host pool, right? If something goes wrong, you know who's responsible for that. Things like that, right? Or the purpose of that host pool.
Okay, then we go to create, but it's a review first, so it will check things, and here we have everything. Let's go through it. Yeah, we have looks fine.
Okay. Yeah, this is basically a list of all the settings that you did, right?
Yeah.
And when the validation is passed, you could be sure that that you can press the create button, which then kicks off the installation of it. Yeah, you can go for it. But at the right hand side, you also see that there's a download a template for automation. So like any other Azure resource which can be created, also Azure Virtual Desktop on Azure Stack HCI is following the same principle, right? You would be able to fully automate all the stuff that we did by clicking through the stuff, by downloading that template and modifying it to your needs, right? What we can also see here is that this deployment is quite complex. So it has multiple deployments, right? So you could see that things are happening one after the other. So there is some dependencies also in there. Other things happen in parallel, right? I think it already created some stuff like the host pool, which is just a basic object in Azure. That's really fast. However, what really takes time is the creation of the virtual machines, and that's the link template on top of it. And here you could see that some things are already done, and other things are being carried out in parallel, right? So you are currently creating probably the 10 network interfaces on your Azure Stack HCI cluster for the 10 virtual machines, right? And the network adapter needs to be first before the compute object can be created, right?
You see already one compute object, so there is parallelism there.
Yeah, there is. This is the digital twin. Like the hybrid compute machines object is the representation of the virtual machine in Azure. Okay. The other thing is, and we will see that after the adapters have been created, we will see something which is called, I think, default. And then from the type, it will be a virtual machine instance. This is actually the time when the image on your cluster will be copied 10 times to the 10 virtual machines folder on your cluster. And that will be finally the resulting virtual machine then, right? But
we can have a look at the cluster if you want to, because this takes some time. Here we have our cluster. Let's go here. So we open it, we go to the roles, and we see here we have already our virtual machines. The numbering is from 0 upwards. So we said we want to have 10 session hosts. So it starts with the -0 to -9, and then we would get 10, 11, and so on. So if we Yeah,
So
look
if you go
here.
there and select and look at the screens, right, you see that this is, or at the console, you see that it is the personalization process, right? So some things are done here um, for personalizing the operating system, right? So every system here gets an unattended file which carries the new name that it should get. It also has, if you would have specified a static IP address, there would be a process implemented of how to get that static IP address for that virtual machine, right? It's not done in the unattended file, but the unattended file has one command that it will run, another PowerShell script that actually does these jobs to further personalize the virtual machine, right? But nevertheless, I mean, we need to wait a little bit here, right, for the personalization phase to happen. That's depending how fast this is. That depends on your storage speed, to be honest, right? So how many disks you have, how performant your system is. And then after the virtual machine has been created, there will be other steps that happen. But I'm not
For
sure if we,
example, our domain join will happen, and when that is successful, we also will have some arc magic happening, right? So we will stop the video here and show you the finished installation.
Right. Okay. Okay.
So I
So
think yeah,
yeah,
go on, Bernhard.
yeah, we pressed a little bit on pause here, but the interesting pieces are, I think, what happened after the VMs have been created. There is the custom script extension, which does the onboarding to the host pool, right?
Sorry, it's just finished.
But yeah,
So let's go back.
your system is so fast. So let's talk
Yeah,
a little bit post installation wise. Okay,
yeah.
so the custom script extension um,
Here.
is joining the session host to the host pool. So do you have a window open with the host pool? I think
No,
it is
I think this
the
custom
second
script
tab.
extension is before the join domain, right?
It is before the join domain, but the
Yeah.
VM will be joined to the host pool in this
Okay.
action.
We
Then
can open we can open
open
it.
up another, duplicate the
I
tab.
wanted to do that.
Perfect.
I really wanted to do that. So let's
So
go
take
to
the host pool.
Yeah, here we see our Arc resources,
Right.
and our host pool is this one.
Right. So you see, when the custom script extension launches, you see that the virtual machines or the machines will be added, one after the other.
So
So
this
the
one,
numbers will count up. And what you should have is, going the 10 VMs going from red to green, and all of them should be available after the installation. Okay, now that's good. Connected with the session host is the application group at the bottom here, right? So you have one application group. Okay.
I click it.
And you see there is 0 assignments. That means actually at the moment, no user has access to this desktop form, right? Do you want to add them now? The users, because I think
first, what the question would be, what is the one application that is assigned?
Yeah, then go for it. Click on manage.
What can we do here? So we have our session desktop.
You
Should
have,
we leave that name or for now?
yeah, let me just talk about, you have 2 types of application groups, right? So it could be a desktop or a remote application, right? As we have decided to go for a host pool that is hosting desktops, there will be automatically a desktop application group created for it, right? What is, I always tend to, click on the session desktop and rename or give the user a better friendly name, right? So the display name, type in something that is more usable for the user, like a Windows 11 desktop with M365 or hosted on HCI, if you will, or, you know.
We do it like this, huh?
Yep, that looks good. Okay, so save that. Okay, so that's the display name or the friendly name, right? And then the only thing that you need to do is now would be to assign a user to it, right? Or do a or add a group to that default application group.
So here's our application. Here's our application group. Here's our default application group. And here we have the assignments. So
correct.
We go to manage. We can now add, and this interface is a little bit weird. Yeah, we can add now users. And we have some. So we can choose our Bernhard Frank and me, and we have a lot of more users here. Yeah, but for now, I think Bernhard Frank, we can also assign a group of users.
Correct.
So we have different possibilities here.
Yeah. So as you wish, right? I mean, that's one of the things that you need to do in order to give access to the users. Okay. So far, so good. Something else you want to look at?
Yeah, we have a lot of possibilities here. If we look here, we have a lot of stuff here, but I would say we talk about that maybe in another session because
correct.
It's too much for this one, right? We have scaling
Yes.
plans here, RDP properties,
right.
networking.
So the only thing before you click on end this video, just go a little bit back to the deployment view of the deployment and talk about the last two things that will happen, which is the join domain, right? That worked. So every computer object is now joined to your Active Directory on-premise. That worked. And then the Azure Monitoring Agent is also already installed inside of every desktop. It's not configured yet, but remember we omitted the setting for the diagnostic stuff. We also did not configure any insights, right? But if you, in a later video, we want to get the desktop's CPU counters, for example, right? Or performance counters and the other performance counters that can be gathered through that Azure Monitoring Agent. But in order to do that, it needs to be installed as an extension. And that's why it is being added to the desktops in the deployment phase, right?
Okay.